The story begins on Naboo, in the verdant gardens of Theed, where soft sunlight filters through swaying trees, glinting off the shimmering lake. The air carries the faint scent of blossoms, but this tranquility is a fragile veneer over a galaxy fracturing at its seams. In the royal palace, Padmé Amidala stands by a grand window, her gaze heavy as it traces the Solyu River's gentle flow. Her pale green silk gown clings to her slender frame, but her shoulders tremble slightly, as if burdened by an unseen weight. At 27, she is no longer the youthful queen or naive senator. She is a mother, a secret wife, and now, a soul torn between love and duty. Padmé has just received word from Coruscant. Anakin Skywalker, the husband she loves more than life itself, has been dispatched to Felucia to lead a campaign against the Separatists. But she knows that behind the Jedi Council's orders lies the shadowy hand of Darth Sidious, a figure she suspects lurks in the darkness, manipulating both sides of the war. For months, Padmé has quietly gathered intelligence from allied senators like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, piecing together anomalies in the conflict. Clone armies ordered from Kamino before the war's outset, Jedi strategies failing in ways that seem orchestrated. She cannot confide in Anakin, for each time she tries, his eyes grow distant, as if a shadow has crept into his soul. A storm of conflict rages within Padmé. She loves Anakin, but she cannot let love blind her judgment. If she does not act, the Sith will claim the galaxy, and the future of Luke and Leia, the twins cradled by handmaidens in the palace, will be imperiled. She needs an alliance, a force strong enough to confront Sidious and his schemes. But how can she unite a divided galaxy, Republic, Separatists, and neutral worlds like Mandalore, under one banner? As Padmé stands lost in thought, a familiar figure steps into the room. Obi-Wan Kenobi, his Jedi robes dusted with the grime of battle, pauses at the threshold. He has just returned from Utapau, where he narrowly escaped a clash with General Grievous. Obi-Wan regards Padmé with a mix of concern and warmth. He knows of her bond with Anakin, though he has never spoken of it. Today, he comes not only to report on the war, but to deliver a warning. He recounts finding an encrypted document on Utapau, hinting at a Sith plot to pit Jedi against Separatists, leaving the galaxy in the hands of a single mastermind. Obi-Wan cannot name the culprit, but his instincts point to Coruscant, to the heart of the Republic's power. Padmé listens, her heart tightening. She senses the truth in Obi-Wan's words, but she also sees the pain in his eyes, the anguish of a friend watching Anakin change. She asks Obi-Wan to stay on Naboo for a few days, to rest, and to help her plan. Obi-Wan agrees, though his gaze flickers with hesitation, as if he senses the perilous path ahead. This moment marks a divergence from the original tale. Instead of waiting passively, Padmé chooses to act, and Obi-Wan becomes her first ally in this mission. In the days that follow, Padmé transforms the Theed Palace into a covert command center. She sends encrypted signals to Bail Organa on Alderaan and Mon Mothma on Chandrila, inviting them to Naboo to discuss a new alliance, a galactic alliance against the Sith. She also reaches out to Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore, a leader she trusts due to her bond with Obi-Wan. Padmé knows that success demands both military might and political unity. Yet deep within, she fears Anakin will not understand her choices, that he might see her actions as betrayal. While Padmé prepares, the galaxy spirals deeper into chaos. On Coruscant, Darth Sidious, cloaked as Chancellor Palpatine, smirks as he receives a hologram report from Count Dooku. From his fortress on Sereno, Dooku confirms that the Separatists are launching a major assault on Kashyyyk, stretching the Jedi's forces thin. Sidious orders Dooku to intensify the pressure, but reminds him that Anakin Skywalker is the key to his plans. Sidious has sown fear and doubt in Anakin's mind, pulling him further from the Jedi and closer to the dark side. Unaware of these manipulations, Padmé sets her plan in motion. She departs Naboo aboard a sleek Naboo star skiff, accompanied by Obi-Wan and a guard detail led by Captain Typho. Their first destination is Alderaan, where Bail Organa has arranged a secret meeting with senators disillusioned by Palpatine's rule. Aboard the ship, Padmé shares her vision with Obi-Wan, not only to defeat Sidious, but to reshape the galaxy into a fairer system where no world is left behind. Obi-Wan listens, but he cautions that confronting the Sith will demand great sacrifice, and he worries for Anakin. Padmé nods, but inwardly, her fear of losing Anakin grows. At Alderaan, in the pristine white palace of Aldera City, Padmé addresses a small group including Bail, Mon Mothma, and a handful of other senators. She speaks of Obi-Wan's evidence, the Sith's manipulations, and calls for an alliance that transcends the divide between Republic and Separatists. Her words carry conviction, but not all are swayed. Some senators fear that openly opposing Palpatine will spark civil war. Bail, with his characteristic calm, pledges Alderaan's resources and troops to Padmé's cause. Mon Mothma, though cautious, commits to providing intelligence and communication support. Tension erupts when Padmé suggests contacting Separatist leaders. She believes not all are enemies, that some, like Senator Mina Bonteri, may have been deceived by Dooku and Sidious. Obi-Wan, while agreeing in principle, warns that aligning with Separatists could erode the Jedi's trust. Padmé, her eyes resolute, declares she is willing to risk her reputation to save the galaxy. The meeting ends with a fragile agreement. Bail and Mon Mothma will discreetly contact Mina Bonteri on Raxus, while Padmé and Obi-Wan press on to Mandalore. On Mandalore, in the luminous city of Sundari beneath its glass dome, Padmé and Obi-Wan meet Duchess Satine. The atmosphere is taut, as Mandalore strives to maintain neutrality amid the war's crossfire. Satine, clad in elegant royal armor, greets Padmé as an old friend, but her glance at Obi-Wan carries a quiet sorrow. Padmé senses the complexity of their bond, but does not pry. Instead, she lays out her plan, an alliance to defeat the Sith and shield neutral worlds from being caught in the conflict. Satine, hesitant due to her pacifist ideals, agrees to supply elite Mandalorian warriors, provided they are used solely for defense, not aggression. Mid-discussion, an explosion rocks Sundari. A Death Watch faction, led by Pre Vizsla, storms the palace, accusing Satine of betraying Mandalorian ideals by aligning with the Republic. Obi-Wan and Padmé, alongside Mandalorian warriors, leap into battle. Lightsabers and blasters clash in the glass corridors, their reflections creating a chaotic kaleidoscope. Padmé, though no warrior, wields her blaster with agility to support Obi-Wan. They repel the Death Watch, but Vizsla escapes, leaving a warning that Mandalore will not forgive Satine. The attack shifts Satine's perspective. She realizes peace cannot endure while the Sith manipulate the galaxy. She fully commits to Padmé's alliance but insists on meeting Mina Bonteri in person to ensure the Separatists harbor no designs on Mandalore. Padmé, though weary, feels a spark of hope. She begins to believe her alliance might succeed, but her thoughts linger on Anakin. She wonders if he will forgive her for working with those he deems enemies. The galaxy churned in the grip of war, its stars dimmed by the smoke of burning worlds. Padmé Amidala's fledgling galactic alliance began to take shape, but the path ahead grew perilous. From Mandalore, she and Obi-Wan Kenobi set course for Raxus, the heart of the Separatist Senate, aboard the Naboo star skiff. The journey was tense, the hum of the ship's engines a constant reminder of the stakes. Padmé stood at the viewport, her reflection ghostly against the swirling hyperspace tunnel. Her thoughts drifted to Anakin, somewhere on Felucia, fighting battles she feared were designed to break him. She clutched a small pendant, a gift from Anakin years ago, its smooth metal grounding her resolve. She could not falter now. Not for herself, not for her children. Obi-Wan, seated nearby, polished his lightsaber hilt absently, his brow furrowed. He sensed the growing darkness around Anakin, a shadow he could not name. His role in Padmé's alliance was clear, to lend the Jedi's strength and credibility, but his heart wrestled with doubt. Could he protect Anakin while supporting Padmé's dangerous gamble to unite enemies? He glanced at her, noting the strain in her posture, and offered a quiet reassurance. The Jedi would stand with her, even if the Council hesitated. Padmé nodded, but her smile was thin, her mind heavy with the fear that Anakin might see her actions as a betrayal of their love. On Raxus, the golden spires of Raxulon gleamed under a violet sky, a stark contrast to the war-torn galaxy beyond. Padmé, Obi-Wan, and Satine, escorted by Mandalorian guards, met Senator Mina Bonteri in a secluded chamber of the Separatist Senate. The room was austere, its walls lined with hollow displays of distant battles. Mina, her expression wary but open, listened as Padmé spoke of the Sith's manipulation, of evidence pointing to a hidden puppet master orchestrating the war. She shared Obi-Wan's findings from Utapau and her own suspicions about Chancellor Palpatine. Mina's eyes widened at the mention of Palpatine, and she admitted that some separatist leaders, herself included, had grown uneasy with Count Dooku's secretive orders, which often contradicted the Senate's goals. The discussion was cut short by a sudden alarm. Separatist droid forces, loyal to Dooku, stormed the Senate building, their metal feet clanging against the marble floors. Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber, its blue glow slicing through the dim light, as he and the Mandalorian guards formed a protective ring around Padmé, Satine, and Mina. Padmé, gripping her blaster, fired precise shots, her movements steady despite the chaos. The droids, led by a pair of droidicas, pressed forward, their shields shimmering. Obi-Wan leaped into the fray, deflecting blaster bolts with fluid precision, while Satine, though a pacifist, wielded a stun baton to disable attackers. Mina, no stranger to danger, guided them through a hidden passage to escape the Senate. As they fled through Raxulon's winding streets, pursued by vulture droids shrieking overhead, Padmé's resolve hardened. The attack confirmed her fears. Dooku, and likely Sidious, knew of her efforts to unite the galaxy. She urged Mina to join the alliance, arguing that only together could they expose the Sith. Mina, shaken but determined, agreed to rally separatist senators willing to defy Dooku. The group reached a safe house, where Mina sent encrypted messages to her allies. Padmé, watching the city's lights flicker under the threat of more attacks, felt a surge of hope tempered by dread. She was building a coalition, but each step drew her closer to a confrontation with Anakin. The Alliance's next move took them to Kashyyyk, where the Wookiees battled a separatist invasion. Padmé saw an opportunity to prove her alliance's strength by aiding a key Republic ally. The jungle world roared with life, its towering rocher trees casting shadows over the battlefield. Padmé, Obi-Wan, and a small Mandalorian contingent joined Wookiee warriors led by Tarful. The air thrummed with the sound of bowcasters and droid cannons. Padmé, clad in lightweight armor, coordinated the defense from a command post, her voice steady as she directed troop movements. Obi-Wan fought alongside the Wookiees, his lightsaber a blur as he carved through B-1 battle droids and spider droids. Amid the chaos, Padmé's thoughts turned to Anakin. She had received a brief transmission from him, his voice strained, warning her to stay safe. She longed to tell him the truth, to beg him to join her, but she feared his anger, his loyalty to the Jedi and Palpatine. Her heart ached as she watched Obi-Wan risk his life, knowing he carried the same burden of protecting Anakin. The battle raged into the night, the jungle lit by explosions.
Tarful's forces, bolstered by the Alliance, pushed back the droids, but victory came at a cost. Many Wookiees lay wounded, their roars of pain echoing through the trees. In the aftermath, Padmé met with Tarful in a treetop village. She spoke of her alliance, of a galaxy free from Sith control, and asked for Kashyyyk's support. Tarful, his fur matted with blood, bowed his head in agreement, pledging Wookiee warriors to her cause. Obi-Wan, standing nearby, watched Padmé with quiet admiration. Her ability to unite disparate worlds, Naboo, Mandalore, Raxus, now Kashyyyk, was remarkable, but he saw the toll it took. Her eyes, once bright with hope, now carried a shadow of exhaustion. She hoped to broker peace and gain their naval support. He approached her later, under the glow of Kashyyyk's moons, and gently urged her to rest. Padmé shook her head, whispering that she could not stop, not while Anakin was out there, slipping further from her. The Alliance's momentum grew, but so did the Sith's countermoves. On Coruscant, Sidious, still masquerading as Palpatine, sensed the ripples of Padmé's actions. He summoned Dooku via hologram, his voice icy as he ordered an escalation. Dooku, from his flagship above Sereno, dispatched General Grievous to intercept Padmé's alliance. Sidious also tightened his grip on Anakin, feeding him visions of Padmé's betrayal through Force manipulations, whispering that she was conspiring with the Separatists. Anakin, on Felucia, fought with ferocious intensity, his lightsaber cutting through droid ranks, but his mind was a storm of doubt and fear. Padmé's next destination was Mon Cala, a waterlogged world where the Mon Calamari and Quarren were locked in a separatist-fueled civil war. The shimmering coral cities of Mon Cala glowed beneath the ocean's surface, but the waters were turbulent with conflict. Padmé, Obi-Wan, and Satine, now joined by Mina Bonteri, arrived in a submersible, greeted by King Yos Kolina. The negotiations were fragile, as the Quarren, swayed by separatist promises, resisted unity. Padmé's eloquence won over the Mon Calamari, but the Quarren remained defiant. The talks collapsed when Grievous's fleet emerged from hyperspace, raining torpedoes on Mon Cala's underwater cities. Coral spires shattered, and the ocean churned with debris. Obi-Wan led a defense alongside Mon Calamari soldiers, his lightsaber flashing through the water as he battled aqua droids. Padmé, in a diving suit, rallied the Alliance's forces, coordinating with Mandalorian pilots in submersible fighters. Satine, torn between her pacifism and the need to act, organized civilian evacuations, her leadership saving countless lives. Mina Bonteri, proving her worth, hacked separatist comms, disrupting Grievous's orders. The battle was fierce, the ocean lit by laser fire and explosions. Padmé, aboard a command sub, narrowly escaped a torpedo volley, her heart pounding as she thought of Luke and Leia. Obi-Wan confronted Grievous on a coral reef, their duel a whirlwind of lightsabers and mechanical claws. Grievous, wounded, fled into the depths, but the damage was done. Mon Cala's cities were scarred, and trust between the Mon Calamari and Quarren frayed. Yet in the battle's wake, King Yos Kolina pledged his fleet to Padmé's alliance, inspired by her courage. The Quarren, moved by Satine's compassion, agreed to a ceasefire, joining reluctantly. As the alliance regrouped, Padmé stood on a coral platform, gazing at the ocean's surface. She felt the weight of each victory, each loss. Obi-Wan joined her, his robes damp, his expression grim. He revealed that he had intercepted a message from Anakin, accusing Padmé of treason. Obi-Wan urged her to confront him, to tell him the truth, but Padmé hesitated. She feared Anakin's anger, feared the darkness she sensed in him. Satine, watching from a distance, approached and took Padmé's hand, offering silent strength. The alliance was growing, but the cost was mounting, and Padmé knew the final battle loomed closer. The galaxy teetered on the edge of collapse, its fate hinging on Padmé Amidala's fragile alliance. Her coalition, forged from Naboo, Mandalore, Raxus, Kashyyyk, and Mon Cala, stood ready, but the Sith's shadow loomed larger than ever. Padmé knew the time for secrecy had passed. To defeat Darth Sidious, she had to confront him in the heart of his power. Coruscant. She stood aboard a Mon Calamari cruiser, the ocean-blue vessel cutting through hyperspace toward the galactic capital. Her hands gripped the railing, her face pale but resolute. Beside her, Obi-Wan Kenobi studied a holo map, his expression grim. Satine Kryze and Mina Bonteri coordinated with their forces, their voices steady despite the tension. Padmé's heart pounded with thoughts of Anakin. She had sent him a message, begging him to meet her on Coruscant to hear the truth. She feared his response, feared the darkness Sidious had nurtured in him. On Coruscant, Sidious, still cloaked as Chancellor Palpatine, sensed the convergence of forces against him. His office in the Senate building was a fortress of deception, its windows framing the glittering cityscape. He had manipulated Anakin's mind, filling it with visions of Padmé's treason and promises of power to save her. Anakin, recalled from Felucia, now stood in the Jedi Temple, his lightsaber hilt clenched tightly. His eyes burned with conflict, torn between loyalty to the Jedi, his love for Padmé, and the seductive whispers of Sidious. When Padmé's message arrived, his heart surged with hope, but doubt gnawed at him. Was she truly allied with the Separatists, as Palpatine claimed? Padmé's alliance arrived in Coruscant's orbit, a fleet of Mon Calamari cruisers, Mandalorian frigates, and Wookiee gunships. The Republic Navy, under Palpatine's control, moved to intercept, but Mina Bonteri's separatist allies jammed their communications, sowing confusion. Padmé, Obi-Wan, Satine, and a strike team landed in the Senate district, their transport weaving through the city's towering spires. The air crackled with tension as Republic clones, unaware of Palpatine's true nature, opened fire. Obi-Wan deflected blaster bolts, his lightsaber a blue blur, while Padmé, armed with her blaster, stayed close to Satine, who directed Mandalorian warriors to secure the perimeter. Mina led a squad to hack Senate security, disabling automated defenses. The battle erupted across Coruscant's surface, a chaotic clash of clone troopers, droids, and Alliance forces. Padmé's team fought through the Senate building's marble halls, their footsteps echoing amid shattered statues. Obi-Wan dueled a squad of clone shock troopers, his movements precise but heavy with sorrow. He knew these men were pawns of Sidious. Padmé, her gown torn, pressed forward, her resolve unshaken. She reached the Chancellor's office, only to find it empty. A hologram flickered to life, Sidious's voice taunting her. He was in the works, the industrial underbelly of Coruscant, where he awaited her challenge. As the Alliance regrouped, Anakin appeared, his presence a storm in the Force. He confronted Padmé in the Senate rotunda, his lightsaber ignited, his voice thick with pain. He accused her of betraying the Republic, of siding with its enemies. Padmé, tears in her eyes, pleaded with him, revealing Sidious's identity as Palpatine, the architect of the war. Obi-Wan stepped forward, urging Anakin to listen, but Anakin's anger flared. He lunged, his blade clashing with Obi-Wan's in a furious duel. Padmé, desperate, shouted for them to stop, her voice cutting through the chaos. Anakin hesitated, his gaze locked on her, and in that moment, she saw a flicker of the man she loved. But before she could reach him, a Republic gunship crashed through the rotunda's dome, its wreckage separating them. Anakin vanished into the smoke, drawn toward the works by Sidious's call. Padmé led the Alliance to the works, a labyrinth of factories and molten rivers where Sidious awaited. The air was thick with ash, the ground trembling from distant explosions. Her team, Obi-Wan, Satine, Mina, and a mix of Wookiee and Mandalorian warriors, navigated the rusted catwalks, their weapons ready. Above, in Coruscant's orbit, the Alliance fleet battled Republic and Separatist remnants loyal to Dooku. Mon Calamari cruisers traded fire with Star Destroyers, while Wookiee pilots and agile fighters outmaneuvered droid tri-fighters. Bail Organa,
commanding from a cruiser, coordinated with Mina's separatist allies, their combined forces holding the line against overwhelming odds. In the works, Sidious emerged from the shadows, his red lightsabers igniting with a hiss. Obi-Wan and the Mandalorians engaged him, their blades and blasters a whirlwind of defiance. Sidious moved like a specter, his force lightning crackling, felling warriors with ruthless precision. Padmé, unprotected by the Force, stayed back, coordinating the attack with a comlink, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. Satine, wielding a Mandalorian shield, protected Mina as she planted explosives to collapse the factory's supports, aiming to trap Sidious. The tide turned when Anakin arrived, his presence a maelstrom of rage and pain. Sidious greeted him, offering power to save Padmé, to rule the galaxy together. Anakin's eyes flickered to Padmé, and for a moment, hope flared in her heart. But Sidious unleashed a vision through the Force, showing Anakin a future where Padmé died in childbirth, her alliance shattered. Anakin roared, his lightsaber igniting, and he attacked, not Sidious, but Obi-Wan, believing him complicit in Padmé's treason. Their duel raged across the catwalks, blue blades clashing with ferocious intensity, sparks raining into the molten rivers below. Padmé, desperate, ran toward them, dodging debris as the factory began to collapse. She called to Anakin, her voice breaking, begging him to see the truth. Satine, seeing Padmé's danger, rushed to her side, only to be struck by Sidious's lightning. She fell, her body crumpling, and Obi-Wan's cry of anguish echoed through the chaos. Mina detonated the explosives, and the factory shook, its structure buckling. Sidious, distracted, turned his wrath on Padmé, hurling her against a wall with the Force. Pain seared through her, but she rose, clutching her blaster, and fired at Sidious, drawing his attention. In that moment, an unexpected figure emerged. R2-D2, the loyal astromech droid, rolling through the chaos. Sent by Bail Organa to deliver a critical message, R2 projected a hologram of Luke and Leia, their innocent faces a stark contrast to the violence. Anakin, locked in combat with Obi-Wan, saw the hologram, and time seemed to stop. The vision of his children pierced the darkness in his soul, shattering Sidious's hold. With a cry of defiance, Anakin turned, his lightsaber slashing through Sidious's defenses. Obi-Wan joined him, their blades striking as one, and Sidious fell, his body consumed by the molten river below. The factory collapsed, forcing the survivors to flee. Obi-Wan carried Satine's lifeless body, his face etched with grief. Padmé, bruised and battered, clung to Anakin, who was weakened by his wounds and the weight of his choices. R2-D2 led them to a transport, and they escaped as the works burned. In orbit, the Alliance fleet secured victory, disabling the Republic and Separatist ships. Bail and Mina broadcasted Sidious's defeat across the galaxy, exposing his identity as Palpatine and Dooku's complicity. The revelation shattered the war's foundation, prompting both sides to cease hostilities. On Naboo, in the quiet of Theed's palace, Padmé stood before a galactic assembly. Bail Organa, now interim chancellor, and Mina Bonteri, representing the reformed separatists, flanked her. The Galactic Alliance was formalized, a coalition of worlds dedicated to peace and justice. Padmé spoke of a new era, one where no planet would be forgotten, where power would not corrupt. Her voice trembled as she honored Satine's sacrifice, vowing to uphold her vision of peace. Obi-Wan, standing silently, wore a mourning band for Satine, his resolve to guide the Jedi forward unshaken. Anakin, scarred but alive, chose to step back from the Jedi, his heart too raw for their path. He and Padmé returned to Naboo, raising Luke and Leia in the gardens where their love began. The Jedi Order, led by Obi-Wan and Yoda, reformed, embracing a role as guardians among the people, not above them. The Republic and Separatists negotiated a treaty, splitting into two cooperative governments, each accountable to the Galactic Alliance. Yet, the galaxy bore scars. Worlds like Kashyyyk and Mon Cala faced long recoveries, and the memory of Sidious's deception lingered. In a quiet moment, Padmé visited Satine's memorial in Sundari, where a statue of the Duchess stood, her serene face carved in white stone. Obi-Wan joined her, and they shared a silent tribute. R2-D2, ever faithful, beeped softly, a reminder of the hope that endured. The galaxy was not perfect. Pirates still roamed, politics remained contentious, but without the Sith's shadow, light prevailed. Padmé, holding Anakin's hand, looked to the stars, knowing their children would inherit a freer world, one forged through sacrifice and love. And folks, that's our story. This one hit me hard. Padmé stepping up as a leader, balancing her love for Anakin with her duty to the galaxy, felt so true to her spirit. Satine's arc and Obi-Wan's quiet strength broke my heart, but R2 stealing the show was pure Star Wars magic. I drew inspiration from Andor's political depth and Obi-Wan Kenobi's emotional weight, trying to capture that mix of hope and loss. What did you think? Drop your thoughts, and let me know what Star Wars What If you want next. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in the next one.